Welcome to the Revolve Recap Weekly Podcast, where we help the members of Revolve Church deepen their connection to God, His family, and His mission. And we're not going to do any of that today because we are doing a special year-end podcast recap. So we're not going to do the typical looking up, looking in, looking out, sermon recap, Q&A. We are throwing the script out the window.
I mean, we still have a script because our computers are here.
Yeah, we do have a script. So, but what's going on, Billy? What are we happening?
This is David McCumber, and I'm Bill Laggy. This is what be happening.
Yeah, what's happening?
We're recapping him with the be happening.
All right. So
a year-end recap.
Yeah. So we decided with the holidays coming up, things are really, really hectic going on right now. And I think it'd be good to give ourselves a little break to kind of restructure, reevaluate this podcast. We are going to end with a year end. We were going to do like a top 5 list or top 10 list, but there's just so many highlights.
So many.
We couldn't whittle it down.
And that was just the podcast highlights.
Yep. So we're going to talk about the things we liked about 2020 and a couple of things we didn't.
Yep. But before we do that, we have a very special call-in. Tales from the Road.
Tales from the Road.
It's not a scary Tales from the Road, though.
It's not a scary Tales from the Road, although she does talk about some demons.
Man.
So, not tremens.
Not tremens, nope.
So, but this,
what are city demons called?
I'm not going to answer that. So
that was not intentional. So, before we do anything...
So, we have Dina, who is a longtime listener, first-time caller, and she sent us a video update from Seed Week. As you know, Dina and Melissa and a few others went up to New York City for a Seed Weekender trip and did some street evangelism, and Dina made us a video. So, without further ado...
Tales from the Road with Dina.
Hi, it's Dina. I want to give you my impressions about Seed Week, and we have Tales from the Road, which is always a good reason why to go on a Seed Week. I found this time around that the city was much darker than it was the first time I went around with Rick and Christian a couple of years ago. This time around, I got to see from the back seat how God was working among my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, and it was super. It was really encouraging. I'm going to cry. We experienced demons, rats, and a turtle in a tutu. If you have any questions about that, seek out someone from the Seed Week and they can tell you more about it. I also saw, I felt a much closer bond with my brothers and sisters who I went up with. And that alone was wonderful because at times you only see people in church and you know so little about them that when you see God work through them and see a person who is first so shy about doing it and you see them use their gifts, how beautiful that is, that you're privileged to see that and just the time spent with them. It is so worth it. So if anyone has any doubt, just do it for that reason, just to bond with another brother and sister. But I promise you, there'll be so much more that happens and that you get to experience, that it's a weekend is so worth it. So thank you for having me share, and I hope this is helpful, and I hope that you really consider this next time around. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, thank you, Dina, for that update. That was really nice to hear about your stories and just the second things that being your second trip, what you got to learn, and Bill and I talk about this all the time. The way to really deepen community and build relationships is serving side by side.
Yep.
So the experience that you had with the deepening of relationships through service and evangelism is
what it's all about.
It's what it's all about.
It's the best way to build community.
Yep. So, let's start. Before we start, we're going to do a What's Up.
What's Up at Revolve?
What's Up at Revolve?
What's Up?
Mm-hmm. Christmas edition.
All right, David, lead us in. I'll be the Vanna White.
Hold that up there, Vanna White. So, Christmas schedule is now available. We got these flyers. You can grab them on Sunday, put it on your refrigerator, because we got December 8th. Oh, December 18th. Oh, I'm blowing it already.
Oh my gosh. Here.
December 18th.
You know what? Why don't you put this on your refrigerator?
I'll put this on my refrigerator. December 18th, 9 a.m.
9 a.m., people.
9 a.m.
December
December
18th.
18th. Okay. You show up at 10, you're going to be watching a dance recital.
It's true.
Yep. And I mean, if you show up at 9, you're going to see a dance recital too, but just me and Bill.
Winter Showcase.
Okay. Yep. Brenton's got a little number planned. Dave Walker's going to be like a star. I'm on the top of the tree.
Yep.
December 24th, otherwise known as Christmas Eve. We will be having a service 4 p.m. Okay, 4 to 5.
1600 for all you military folk.
Yep, and that's a family service. That's all your family come together, dress up nice, and,
Wear an ugly sweater if you want.
Yep, I will be. And mine will be ugly and too small. So it's a double whammy. All right. December 25th, the next day.
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas. You're gonna stay home and you're gonna be with your family. January 21st.
January.
January.
A mess.
January 1st. I'll have it on the screen. It'll be all good. January 1st, again, no Sunday service, but we're going to plan a little church in the box for you. We'll make a little video. We'll have some things. Have some friends over. Have your DG over. Have church service at home on New Year's Day. And then we'll see you back.
On New Year's Day, January 21st.
So, quick recap. Give it to me, Billy. What is
December 18th, 9 a.m. because there is a winter showcase dance recital that day, and so we have to bump earlier. December 24th, 4 p.m., family friendly, which means there's no childcare. All right? And December 25th, Christmas Day, no service. So December 24th is the service for that weekend, and then there's no service on January 1st, so we can give all of our volunteer and staff the week off with their family. But we will encourage you to gather with your discipleship group, your friends, your family, and enjoy a time of worship and fellowship together on that day.
Yeah, and that's really important because we have a big serve staff and a lot of people that help and lend a hand on Sunday morning, and we just want to give everybody a nice little break.
Just a little breaky.
Yep,
little breaky.
There we go. But next week, it's back in business.
That's it.
Back in business. We'll do like a year.
Look at 2 services.
Whoa.
Like back-to-back sermons. Just because we got to come back full force.
All right, so this is what you all tuned in for. You want to hear
things
the top things, the things we loved. This is just a David and Bill
winging it.
Feedback on what did we love. Bill, what did you love?
Let's share what Steve said first. Can we share what Steve said first?
We did. We asked Steve to send us an audio recording, and he sent us a text. He actually sent us a fax. He faxed this over to us. And he says, thinking back over the last year, I was once again reminded of the goodness of God and how he has demonstrated his goodness towards us as a church family. In particular, the provision of 2 Mile Restaurant and the gracious accommodation of the Hanson family, which enabled us to continue to meet and worship together without cost for 118 Sundays.
Who's counting?
Surely, we, like the prophet Samuel, can declare, thus far the Lord has helped us. So we thank the Lord for his kind provision, his faithfulness, and his goodness to us.
Well said, Steve.
Very well said.
And well read, David.
I did much better than those last announcements because I really botched those.
That is very true. I appreciate what Steve said, and we appreciate the generosity of the Hanson family opening up 2 Mile to us for all those weeks. Yeah. Unbelievable when you think about it. Pandemic really punched us all in the face.
Yep.
That's why they call it punchy face pandemic.
That's what they called it. All right, Bill. So what's something you look back on 2022?
Yeah.
You're sipping a cup of tea on New Year's Eve.
Tea?
And
coffee, David.
All the thanks be forgot.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Some of the things that I really appreciate about 2022, I would say one of the first things is freedom to finally travel again without all of the nonsense.
Yeah.
So I went to Greece in at the end of April, I think. It was like the last week of April. And as soon as we came back from Greece, Greece dropped all their travel restrictions. And I just remember thinking, oh, thank goodness that this is finally done. And I hope it starts like some momentum here. And then we went to Germany in August, and Germany dropped all their travel restrictions. You didn't have to get tested. You know, we did still have to wear masks like on the train and that kind of stuff. But what a relief, because when we were in Greece, we couldn't even go into Burger King without showing paperwork and test results. And I was just so glad that was over with, to be able to travel and to not have it be this enormous ordeal where it's like, I mean, how many times when we were in Greece, when you and I went, how many times did we get tested? I mean,
tested and then having to show our paperwork like all the time to different people.
Yeah.
And it was in English. They couldn't read it. That was the best part. They would just like hold it up in front of their face. They're like, okay, looks good.
Looks good. We're going to do your tests on this outdoor trash can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really glad that that was done. That would be a highlight for me. Freedom, America.
All right. I think the highlight for me was when in the beginning of the year, it was probably about March, when we kind of streamlined the hub and turned it into the ABCs of discipleship. And I think, I've now taught that class probably 4 or 5 times to various different groups, DGs, and even with just some individuals. And I just feel like that was a really, that was you and Gina
it was mostly Gina
that really finalized that. But I just think it helped kind of simplify some of the hub principles for the everyday disciple maker. We got rid of some of the church planning aspect of it, which I think the average everyday church going disciple maker just wants to know how to have spiritual conversations. They want to know how to read the Bible. They want to know how to, bridge and use their relationships for the gospel. And I just thought that was a really simple way to do it. So I think that was kind of a highlight of my year of, kind of finalizing that curriculum and then being able to teach it and see it.
Well, and similarly, another highlight for me was then taking that curriculum and being able to use that with some online trainings internationally, and to be able to do that with some men from Egypt and Afghanistan and Pakistan and, other parts of Central Asia. And that was really a big, exciting thing, I think, that we both got to take part of. So that was cool as well.
Yeah. And now it's currently being translated into Arabic and Farsi.
600 languages.
Arabic and Farsi. We have, we were partnered with 2 other guys, and we're slowly kind of making videos and making some print material. And, so I think 2023, you'll see, I think by the end of I think if we take a year, that should be a healthy goal to see that all translated to
written
Arabic.
Down and translated. We need to get it into a booklet in English too.
Yeah. So I think that'll be some good goals. So, all right. Well, before we get any further into some of the highlights of the year, let's take a quick break. Bill, what is up with Advent reading? What is Advent? What does that even mean?
Advent.
It's a calendar with chocolates.
It's a calendar with chocolates.
You open it up, you get a Lego.
Sometimes it might be like, some Legos. Now, Advent is arrival. It's about the arrival of Jesus' incarnation. If you were there on Sunday, then you got to hear Breton do the Advent announcement. So basically, we're going to be sending out an email this week. Might even go out today.
Might even. Depends on how good this podcast goes.
Yeah. And that email is going to give you 2 options. They're all options because no one's going to force you to do it. But one is an Advent reading book that's designed for adults, and then the other one is an Advent book designed for families. And so we're going to encourage you to consider choosing one of those books for the month of December, and then also joining the PCO group. And all this will be linked in the email. And the PCO group will give you a way that you can just have discussion as you're going through that content, either by yourself or with your family, and you can just talk about, I really enjoyed this thought and that sort of stuff.
And that's on the Church Center app. When he says
Yeah.
PCO group, that's the Church Center app. We've been pushing that for like the last month. We are actually giving some cards away this weekend. So the Church Center app is where these groups are going to exist.
Yes, and so download that app. Also, just to make a mental note, beginning in January, we are no longer going to use GroupMe at all. We're not going to use GroupMe for any church communication. Everything is going to happen through the Church Center app. So you really do need to download that if you want to stay connected with prayer requests and those kinds of things. But anyway, so pick either the Advent reading plan for families or the Advent reading plan for adults. Join that group, start reading it, have some conversation on the Church Center app with other people from Revolve, Lord willing, and just be a little bit more intentional this Advent season.
Yep. So, also, Bill, we want to know, what did you love about the podcast in 2022? So, with the first one was kind of an overview of what you really enjoyed about ministry at Revolve.
Yep.
What about the podcast? The podcast was we're at episode 40. It's
Wow.
about a year old.
40 memories, 40
memories.
40,
What were some of
40
your highlights?
days of my life I can never get back.
Yeah. It's kind of cool, hearing people enjoying the podcast. My dad listens to the podcasts.
Yeah,
he actually said
he's a big fan.
he's a big fan. He said that he can tell that the first ones weren't that good, and they get better every time.
Thanks,
So
Big Dave.
that was
Appreciate that.
encouraging.
Sometimes Big Dave drives by and he honks at us. Bah, bah.
Yep. He's just trying to get into the podcast.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you're in it. You're in it.
So what would you say? What was your highlights of the podcast?
My favorite parts of the podcast were definitely the question of the day, and then more recently, Tales from the Road.
And why those particular things?
Because they're the most unscripted, and they wound up being the funniest parts. Like every time I go through and I listen to that again, I always find myself laughing at us, which is like, it's funny when you laugh at yourself, you know what I mean? But like I'll go back and I'll look at those, or Gina's watching the podcast or listening to it, and I'm kind of like listening in the background, ear hustling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'm laughing at us.
That's eavesdropping.
Ear hustling is what they call it in the street.
Spying.
Well, anyway, question of the day, Tales from the Road. My highlights.
I like Question of the Day better than Tales from the Road. I like Tales from the Road because there are some funny, and I think it's, I think people want to, when you go on these trips, like they want to hear what God's doing.
Yeah.
They want to hear like the ministry aspects, but there are funny things about like, that happens. You're human, and there's things that happen. So, but I almost feel, I don't want it to feel like an inside joke. I think sometimes they're like, you had to be there. But the Question of the Days, I always like the Question of the Days.
Well, David, so how much do you like those Question of the Days? Do you like them enough to do one right now?
Are we doing one right now?
Are we doing one right now? Whoa. Maybe.
What is it? Are you
I gotta. Okay. Hold on a second. I need you to relax.
I know. I get stressed out.
Wow.
Is this a good one? Is it a question of the day about
some of these I don't even know what they mean.
Are they questions of the day about Tales from the Road? So like, what's a funny story?
Some of these are really profound.
Well, me.
Can I ask you like two or three? Because they're...
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, this is like rapid fire.
Okay.
I don't know what this one means. So maybe this is like something that like I'm just not hip enough.
And this is from your app?
Yeah. What is your grit word?
My grit word?
What's a grit word?
Oh, I don't know. But I would assume it's like a word like perseverance.
Oh, I guess it's like a thing. A grit word.
It's something you have to like remind yourself.
What type of word is what? I don't know.
All right. Well, let's just
What's something that like inspires you, I guess. I don't know.
Simple Man by
Leonard
Leonard Skinner. Yeah,
Okay.
That's my grit word.
That's your grit song.
Yeah. Mama told me.
Yeah.
Okay. My grit word I think is just man, I
don't know what this
burning
means.
daylight.
Burning daylight. Yeah.
And it's just gotta work hard.
Do I have a grit word?
Yours is probably I need to take a nap.
That is not my grit. That's your grit word. My grit word is probably pacing back and forth or something.
Your grit word is packing. You love packing. You just got to get that packing in. Even when you were going to Florida, you were like, I got to pack.
I do like packing. I like being prepared. All right. Do you ever see wild animals?
Do I ever see wild animals?
That's the question.
Well, I mean, I have chickens in my
They're
backyard.
not wild. They live in a cage.
I see squirrels.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't live in an area that has like
Zebras?
whitetails, deers on our back porch. Which
Yeah,
I guess
that's true.
Eddie and Mallory might up in
How about this?
the road.
Tell me about your worst haircut ever.
Oh, all right. I'm not.
And
gonna
then I'll tell you about my
worst.
worst haircut.
I'm not going to tell you my worst haircut. I'm going to tell you a funny haircut story though.
Okay, that's fine.
So I get my haircut from my cousin. My cousin's wife, Megan, cuts my hair all the time. Unfortunately, we had a funeral in the family this week, and my cousin Megan was in the receiving line for the funeral, and I had to get a haircut from someone else because I wasn't going to ask her to. She was closed for this week because of the funeral, and I went. Everyone's crying, appropriately. And I give Megan a hug, and she whispers in my ear, "Who cut your hair?"
Because you betrayed her.
Because I betrayed her. And it was one of those, funerals are like a mixture of like super highs or super lows. And I was just like bawling my eyes out and then just started laughing my head off because I was like, I knew when I went and got my hair cut by someone else, she was going to notice.
Right.
It would be like if I came into your store and you had like, a different painting from
It's like
someone
when people
else.
come up to me and they tell me about pastors from other local churches that they're listening to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's been preaching to you?
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of a funny haircut story.
Well, I mean, I think I already told a funny haircut story because I used to be Just the Bangs Billy.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe it's a flashback. It's a deep cut.
It was a deep cut.
But I also, at one point in time, had the flop, if you remember the flop.
Did you? Was that just like long on the top? And
It's kind of like it's like almost like a comb over.
Yeah.
Where it's like.
I was like one of the bullies from The
It's
Simpsons
like you,
had that haircut.
yeah, one of the bullies. Yeah, that's me. Right?
Totally going to cut to that.
And like it was just a flop, and they called it flop, and I was always like, see, the real reason I don't have hair is because I have calyx like alfalfa.
Yeah.
And so I can't have hair. I have a calic here. I have a calic here. I have calics all over. I literally look like an onion patch if I have hair. And so I tried to get these Just the Bangs, or I tried to get the flop because I wanted to be cool and fit in, but it never worked out. And
what kind of haircut did you have on your wedding?
like this,
It was just cut
it was
short.
just cut short. But the funny thing is that, one time I was trying again to get a haircut, and I was like, I'm just going to try again, try something else, see if it works with my calyx. And the lady who was like total like hairdresser from like the 80s, you know what I mean? Like still had like her hair feathered and all this kind of stuff, barber, whatever. And she goes, you know what? What? And she goes, you have the perfect hair for a flat top and a rat tail.
Yeah. And
Because I have a calic right here. So apparently what I should have is like a Dolph Lundgren flat top and then a rat tail.
Nice.
So I might bring it back. If you think I should grow out a flat top and a rat tail, let
If you're
Gina
still
know.
listening this far into the podcast, you go for it.
Dolph Lundgren, that's me.
Yep. And then what's a rat tail? That's
Rat tail is like where you only grow out.
Mullet.
It's not a
thin.
It's not even a mullet. It's only like the bottom inch of the back of your neck, and then it's like real thin. You can like pull it over your shoulder. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that if you check it out, you're gonna realize that it's pretty awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe braid it.
Yeah.
Whip people with it. Get out of line.
All right. So here's the next question for you. What is one thing you would have done differently? Or
Wait, you didn't do
changed?
what you loved about the podcast.
Oh,
What do you love about the podcast the most in 2022?
I would say I like the on the ground segment. I like
Application?
the application of the sermon. I think when you or you, Steve, Brett, and kind of preach the most. Do a good job of giving those applications, but just really digging deeper of like, what can I do in the next 24 hours? Because it's easy to say, well, I got to love God more.
Right.
Or I got to tell my friends about Jesus. But I think on the ground, we always try to do really specific things to apply, God's word to our life. And I just think that's a good thing. And I think that's one of the stronger points of the podcast. We have fun. We goof off. But I think there are some nuggets in there where we do some applicable things that are,
Yeah. I think it's funny that the two things you like the most were both Gina's ideas.
Well, I've been trying to get
Maybe
Gina.
Gina should take over the
I've been
church and I should quit.
trying to get Gina to take over the podcast. I think it should just be
Friends with Gina.
yeah. I think so. That's what it should be. And then every week she could have a different friend on.
Mm-hmm. Like Ross, Rachel,
Any of them.
Chandler.
Yep.
Yeah. Janice.
I've never saw the show, so I wouldn't know.
That's because you're a loser.
Well, I was probably reading my Bible.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what you were doing.
All right. So then why don't you ask me the question then?
All right, I'll ask you a question. What's one thing you would have done differently this year in hindsight? Learning curve.
I wouldn't have ate so many bagels.
Oh, man.
And Sizzlies, they get me.
I
so
diet
good.
start every Monday. Every Monday I'm like, today's the day.
Yeah. Yep.
Today's the day and I change my life.
Yep. I think in terms of Revolve and ministry, looking back on 2022, I think what I'm realizing is that we started some things. So we have the hub and we have very little ministry that happens within the church because we're decentralized. We're trying to equip you to go out and serve your neighbor and start Discovery Bible studies within your circle of friends. But the ministries that we do have, so take, for example, the podcast that happens in-house, not setting like goals or like metrics on what is success. So, we started this podcast with the idea of being able to connect with people, to have them go deeper, to know, because we don't really, do that many Sunday morning announcements. We don't do a bulletin, so having a way to keep people in the loop. We do a lot of international partnerships, ways to keep our ministry partners on the forefront. So those were the goals, but we never really gave any quantified, like, do we want 100 listeners? Do we want 5 comments? Like, what is a win? How do we know the podcast is a win? So I think giving more like metrics, like, so we have DGs.
Scorecard.
We have DGs. What is a successful DG? Like, how do we quantify that so we can help our DG leaders move towards success, congratulate them when they reach that success? Like, do we want DGs multiplying every year?
Yeah.
Do we want new leaders being developed? So I think going into 2023 of like looking at our ministries and then saying, like, how do we know that's a win? How do we know that, Waddlers and Toddlers is a win? Like, what does that look like to win there? And review that, and then
that's great.
Celebrate those wins when they happen, or critique and tweak things so we can move closer to that win.
It's like basic organizational leadership stuff, but it's so important.
Yeah.
And I think we used to be a lot more intentional with that pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic just like sucked it all out. And I think that's been a process of trying to rebuild those things. I think for me, I think that there was like a lack. How do I put it? I think that as a personality, I'm a builder, like Bob the Builder.
Bob the Builder, we can fix it. Yes, we
can. I'm a builder by personality. I'm very apostolic, as in I like starting things. I like new ventures. I like new. And I'm not good at the same old.
Yeah.
And I think we are a small town, a small church where there's not a lot of new. And I think for me, because I like new and I thrive off of new, sometimes I will agree to things that I shouldn't agree to do, like different options or ventures, because I need that to like stay motivated. But I think I need to also step back and get some vision clarity, like you were saying. Like discipleship groups are supposed to be the lifeblood of Revolve, but they don't feel like the lifeblood of Revolve. And I think that because my personality is such where I like starting things, but then not following up, it's been hard to make sure that I still also then follow up with the things I need to follow up with. So I think having that vision clarity would be something I would have done differently and something I need to do going into 2023.
Yeah. And I think it's good to for all ministries, all life, always just take a look back, see how you can do it better, and then continue to try. Like, we're not beating each other up, right? And we're not beating anyone up about this, but it's just a healthy thing to look back. Hey,
reflect.
I ate too many bagels.
Yeah.
And the old waistline is showing. So,
oh man.
But so all right, so let's look at some runners up.
Ooh, runners up.
Some
things that didn't make the cut.
Some things that did not make the cut for 2022. What were some highlights for you, Billy, that just didn't make the cut?
When we bought that trailer, I really wish it was about 6 inches taller.
Oh, my word.
I've hit my head on the ceiling on that spring on that trailer at least 24 times. And I feel like it's literally to the inch big enough to put like those panels in there. I can't stand up. It's like I just have to go like that. It's like too tall. Perfect.
Oh my goodness. It's almost comical how often you hit your head, but you really feel bad because when you hit your head, it hurts.
Yeah, I saw Bruce Clark hit his head on it, and I was like, "Oh, poor Bruce!" Because when I hit my head, it's just like a little scalping, but when Bruce hits his head, it's like 6 inches of neck compression.
Oh my goodness! So if you're not picking up what we're putting down, these were things that we did not enjoy about 2022. They didn't make the cut.
What about you, David? What didn't make your list?
The greenheads at 2 Mile. While trying to preach or lead worship. Like, I loved 2 Mile. It was a blessing. It was amazing. But I don't know why I never brought like a fan or something to like blow on my ankles, or bug spray. Like, I never, every week.
Or pants.
Or pants. Okay, Bill. Thank you. You knew all the solutions, but you never told me.
Well, I keep hitting my head though. So.
Oh my word. I would be finished leading worship with just blood running down my legs from
all the ankle biters.
From all those ankle biters. So I will not miss the greenheads.
Well, you won't miss them until this summer, because apparently Lower Township said that they gotta like redo the roof or something, and chances are we won't be able to use Lower Township in the summer.
Well, then I'm gonna get a pair of light slacks.
Ooh, like cotton, like muslin. What's it called? Muslin?
Yeah,
M-U-S-L-I-N?
something, or maybe like something like what they wear in Egypt,
like a dashiki,
like where they cover the whole body, because that's what it's to
a whoopee
against. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's what we called them in Morocco, whoopies. But like some sort of, could you imagine that if I just like you showed up and I looked like a sand person from?
I would love it.
What are those people called from Star Wars?
Sand people.
Those are called sand people.
I think so.
Raiders, Tuscan Raiders.
Tuscan Raiders.
Where they have like the.
Yeah, I know what it is, David. When you do it again, though, just
if you're not watching this on YouTube, I was just doing my Tuscan Raider impersonation with holding a gun over my head.
Well,
shaking it.
I think, yep, that's what he was doing.
So
it wasn't a real gun, though.
Was there anything else in that in your?
No, I think we should move on.
All right, so we're gonna start to land this plane. We're gonna end with kind of like a number one.
A
really big highlight of 2022. And while you're thinking of yours, I think we did see this year some more leaders stepping up, and I say it in like with the book clubs we kind of started those
over the pandemic
almost 2 years ago.
About.
And they were all elder led, and then I know like Breton led a class, and he had Jason lead, and then like I had Victor help me with the hub, and so you're seeing more people stepping up to do some of these leadership things.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think that we're seeing some leaders being developed. We have kind of second and third generation where people who we poured into are now pouring into other people, and I feel like everything we talk about with DMM, with disciple-making movements, it's like this big ball that starts rolling, and it takes a long time to roll, but once it starts, it really gets going, So you figure if you pour into one guy for a whole year, and the next year he pours into a guy, you're pouring into a guy, that's 3 guys, and then 3 guys turns to 9 guys, 9 guys turns to
6,000.
6,000, just like
Just
that.
like that.
But
Year 3.
But I think coming out of the pandemic, having the first kind of almost first year of ministry after the pandemic, I think we're seeing some leaders stepping up, and I'm excited to see what happens in 2023 as we try to identify leaders, try to help them, develop them, and have leaders create more leaders, and really see some new elder candidates, things like that. So
That's great.
I think that was mine.
That was a good answer. I think one of my highlights, and I don't know if this is the most or not, but it was pretty close up there, is Family Book Club. Really enjoyed Family Book Club. We read, What Happens When You Die by Chris Morphew. And just had it was fun. Like the kids were laughing.
It was a blast. I liked it. Learned a lot, too.
And it was really good. Yeah, it was a great book. I felt like I learned a lot. I also felt like having the families involved instead of it just being like, well, drop your kids off. This is Awana. You know what I mean? It was like having the whole family there was awesome. And so that was really encouraging.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Are we gonna do that again?
Every time somebody comes up the steps to go to Century 21, it looks, for like 3 seconds, it looks like they're coming right into our office.
Yeah.
And you never know. It could be just some crazy guy who wants to talk with you about Wisconsin.
So are we going to do...
Yeah, we're going to do another one. I think we have one. I think we're going to... Well, in January or early in the year, I think January, we're going to do a family worship 3-week course, and it's going to be family friendly. It's specifically targeting young families, and it's going to be like, how do you do family worship at home? And then we're going to do a family book club in the late spring, I think, as well.
Yeah. We really enjoyed the family book club, and I think having like a start and an end date is something that we learned this year too. Of like, we're going to do a 6-week family book club, or we're going to do a 8-week this, and I think that's really good because people can set their commitment, and it's kind of regulated.
And we're going to do more of that in 2023. Like instead of doing 16 weeks straight of doctrine, we're going to do a 4-week chunk, and then a 4-week chunk, and then a 4-week chunk.
Yep. So, those were some of our highlights, some of our lowlights, some of the funny things that happened. If you have some things that you remember about 2022 that you want to leave in the comments or let us know, we'd love to hear that as well. And, who knows what the future of the podcast will be and what it'll look like, or even if it'll come back. But we're going to take the next month and a half and really reevaluate and brainstorm and see what the best use of our time is for all ministries. So, Bill, do you have any closing remarks to land this plane one last time in 2022?
Wow.
And all the faces be
David,
da.
It's been fun.
All lang syne.
It's been fun. Podcast has been a blast. Hopefully the Lord still got a plan for the podcast, and whether we change the content up a little bit and make it broader where it's more discipleship oriented instead of just Revolve focused, who knows? If you have any ideas, guys, feel free to let us know what your ideas are.
What if we just did a podcast that was just like us eating spicy food? And
that's like a thing right now. It's like you eat like really nastily.
We just do a podcast where it's just you and I
can't handle spicy
doing
food.
trendy things from the internet, but with like a biblical,
a biblical twist.
Yeah, we'll watch
Dahmer.
Dahmer, and then we'll do or one of those podcasts, like the murder mystery podcast. Like we could do one, and then we do put the gospel on at the end.
Yeah, trick people, bait and switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea, David.
Yeah.
So Gina's idea, since Gina apparently had 2 of the best ideas of the year so far, was that we should do 2 Revolve recaps a month and 2 Discovering Discipleship podcasts a month, where it's like you do a Revolve recap every other week, recap in the last 2 weeks, and then on alternating weeks, we would do Discovering Discipleship podcast where you'd push into like this week on this podcast we're just going to explore a little bit deeper into abiding and talk about fasting.
Okay.
Talk about practices of fasting, what's the biblical foundation. So I thought that was an interesting idea because then it's not like just killing the podcast.
But when do we eat the spicy food?
Well, that would be the opening section.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Opening section of it would be the spicy food.
All right. Well, I totally hijacked your,
It's okay.
your outro. I apologize for that.
I had no outro planned.
All right. Well, that was it.
That was it. Land the plane. The plane's landed. Hopefully it's not like Manifest type situation where we go back in time or forward in time or
forward in time. Like nothing's changed for us. But I'm gonna go home and Melissa's gonna have a new husband and like
right
and be mad at me because I
smoking.
Yeah.
Baby on her hip.
Shoo. Yeah. So if you don't
Where
know,
you
there's
been,
was that on
McCumber?
Netflix? Was Manifest
I think it's
on?
Netflix.
Yeah. Bill and I both watched that show, and I don't think we're very impressed with it.
Nah, I stopped.
Yeah, me too. So, well, that was it. That's the podcast with no script. Close our
Signing
laptops.
out. Well, it's kind of like how Seinfeld ended. Just going to prison.
Yep.
For the Good Samaritan law.
Yep.
See you guys in prison.